You've just come home after a long, draining day. You're hungry, you don't feel like chopping anything or scrubbing cutting boards, and the thought of waiting for takeout feels like torture. That's when the freezer becomes your best friend. A simple bag of frozen vegetables has saved countless dinners, whether tossed into pasta, stirred into soups, or microwaved as a quick side dish. For decades, frozen veggies promised convenience without guilt. They were marketed as the perfect balance of health and speed, farm fresh produce, locked in time, and ready whenever you needed them. Many families relied on them to stretch budgets, feed kids, or keep a backup supply when fresh produce wasn't an option. But here's the twist. Over time, not every brand kept that promise. Some started loading their bags with extra salt, sauces, or preservatives. Others cut corners, leading to limp textures, off flavors, and even recalls that shook consumer trust. What was once a symbol of convenience has, in many cases, become a gamble with quality. So today we're breaking down the frozen vegetable brands you should avoid first, and then the few that are actually worth trying. Avoid number 1, Green Giant frozen vegetables. For many Americans, Green Giant is the face of frozen vegetables. The smiling, jolly Green Giant mascot has been around since 1928, and the company's roots stretch all the way back to 1903. Generations grew up seeing those bags in grocery freezers, marketed as farm fresh and wholesome. At one point, it wasn't just food, it was a symbol of trust, a shortcut that still felt healthy. Families once leaned on Green Giant for busy weeknights, tossing peas or broccoli into casseroles, soups, or simple side dishes. It carried nostalgia. Parents bought it because their own parents did, believing it was the dependable way to bring vegetables to the table without breaking the bank or spending hours prepping. But the reality today is much less cheerful. Many Green Giant frozen vegetables are no longer just vegetables. Salt, sugar, and artificial flavors have crept into certain product lines, especially the sauced or seasoned bags. Reports of bland, watery taste and soggy textures are common, leaving shoppers disappointed. Worse, in 2016, the brand was caught in the middle of a major recall after concerns about listeria contamination in its frozen corn and mixed vegetable products. For a company built on the image of purity, this was a huge blow. And here's the kicker. Green Giant often costs more than generic store brands. You're paying extra for branding and nostalgia, but not necessarily for quality. That's a tough pill to swallow when half the bag ends up mushy or flavorless. So the question is, have you noticed the difference? When you open a bag of Green Giant peas or corn today, does it taste like the bright, crisp veggies you remember? Or just another disappointment? Avoid number 2, Bird's Eye frozen vegetables. Video. If Green Giant is the face of frozen veggies, Bird's Eye is the pioneer. Founded in the 1920s by Clarence Birdseye, the brand revolutionized how Americans thought about preservation. His flash freezing process was groundbreaking. Suddenly, peas harvested in June could be eaten in January, tasting almost as fresh as the day they were picked. Birdseye became a household name, synonymous with quality and innovation. For decades, parents trusted it as the smart choice to keep vegetables on hand year-round. Many of us remember grabbing Birdseye peas or mixed veggies as staples for quick dinners. They were versatile, perfect for fried rice, casseroles, soups, or simply steamed with a pat of butter. That history of dependability gave Birdseye an edge over competitors. But the current picture is different. While Birdseye still sells plain vegetables, much of its freezer space is now dedicated to sauced or seasoned varieties. These bags often contain sky-high sodium levels, added sugars, and a long list of preservatives. Instead of enhancing natural flavors, the sauces smother the vegetables, making them taste more like processed meals than simple produce. Complaints about rubbery textures and watered-down flavors are increasingly common. Adding to the frustration, recalls have tarnished the brand's reputation. Several Birdseye products were pulled from shelves due to contamination risks, leaving loyal shoppers questioning whether convenience is worth the gamble. It's a sad irony that the brand that once stood for freshness now leans so heavily on shortcuts. And here's the problem for consumers. Birdseye often costs more than store brand options, yet the quality isn't always better. Paying extra for vegetables drowned in sauce or limp after cooking feels like a betrayal of what Bird's Eye once stood for. So let's be honest, do you really want your vegetables buried under a blanket of artificial sauce? Or would you rather taste the real thing? Avoid number 3, Pick Sweet farms frozen vegetables. Pick Sweet Farms has deep southern roots. Founded in Tennessee, the company built its reputation on being a family-owned operation with images of rolling farmland and simple, honest produce. For decades, the name evoked trust. It was the brand you'd find in small-town grocery stores, marketed as a connection to real farms and hardworking values. Families use Pick Sweet mixed vegetables in pot pies, soups, and slow cooker meals, believing they were choosing something authentic. That image, however, has been chipped away by reality. In recent years, Pick Sweet has faced more than one recall tied to listeria concerns, shaking consumer confidence. Even when there's no recall, shoppers report inconsistent quality, bags heavy with ice crystals, suggesting poor storage or rushed freezing methods. Open a bag and instead of crisp beans or bright corn, you often find freezer-burned pieces or vegetables that turn mushy within minutes of cooking. The disappointment is especially tough because the brand markets itself as wholesome and farm fresh. Instead, you're paying for vegetables that don't hold up in taste or texture. Many buyers complain that Pick Sweet's frozen greens lack flavor, and some mixes seem padded with filler, like more carrots or beans, less of the premium ingredients you actually want. Price only adds to the frustration. While not as expensive as premium organic brands, Pick Sweet often costs more than store-label alternatives. When half the bag feels like a block of ice, that price difference stings. The promise of farm quality ends up feeling like a hollow slogan. So here's the real question. If your freezer bag looks more like a chunk of ice than a bag of vegetables, is it still worth buying, or is that money better spent elsewhere? Avoid number 4, Kroger store brand frozen vegetables. Kroger is one of America's largest grocery chains, and its private label products have long been positioned as budget-friendly alternatives to national brands. Millions of families rely on Kroger's frozen vegetables because they're often the cheapest option on the shelf. And when you're stretching a grocery budget, every quarter counts. For decades, that affordability kept Kroger's freezer section busy. But here's the problem. Cheap doesn't always mean good value. Kroger's frozen vegetables are notorious for inconsistency. Some bags deliver decent quality, but many customers report soggy textures, dull flavors, or vegetables that fall apart after cooking. It's not uncommon to pour out a bag and find a heavy dose of stems or ends instead of the whole kernels and cuts you expect. The result feels less like a shortcut and more like settling. And while national brands have faced recalls, Kroger's private label line isn't immune either. A 2016 recall tied to potential listeria contamination pulled Kroger frozen vegetables from freezers nationwide, reminding shoppers that lower prices don't shield them from higher risks. When trust is broken in something as basic as frozen peas, it's hard to win back confidence. On the surface, Kroger's pricing looks attractive. You might save 30 to 50 cents a bag compared to Bird's Eye or Green Giant. But what's the real cost if half the bag ends up in the trash because the texture is mushy or the taste is bland? Saving pennies only to waste dollars defeats the purpose of buying frozen vegetables in the first place. So ask yourself, is saving a small amount worth the gamble? Or does it make more sense to pay slightly more for vegetables that actually taste like, well, vegetables? Avoid number 5, Great Value, Walmart. Frozen vegetables. Walmart's Great Value brand has a simple mission: deliver the lowest price possible. For many shoppers, that's reason enough to grab a bag of Great Value frozen corn or mixed veggies without thinking twice. When you're feeding a large family or trying to stretch a fixed income, paying under $2 for a pound of vegetables feels like a smart move. But here's where the bargain falls apart. Great Value frozen vegetables often suffer from weak texture and bland flavor. Instead of bright green beans or crisp broccoli, you might get limp pieces that cook into a watery, lifeless side dish. Reviews frequently mention bags with uneven cuts, freezer burn, or even an overpowering off taste that suggests rushed processing. It's the kind of disappointment that makes a cheap price tag feel like a trap. Walmart has also dealt with recalls linked to potential contamination in its great value frozen vegetable line. While these recalls weren't always front-page news, they were serious enough to undermine trust. For shoppers who rely on these products to save money, the thought of buying a bag that could be unsafe is more than just frustrating. It's alarming. Value is supposed to mean getting more for less, but in this case, cheap often equals wasted meals. Great value might work in a pinch for soups or stews, where texture matters less, but as a standalone side, it consistently underdelivers. And when food waste piles up, those pennies saved at checkout don't add up to real savings. So here's the question. Do you really trust the cheapest bag in the freezer aisle to give your family the nutrition and taste they deserve? Or is that bargain costing you more in the long run? Not every frozen vegetable brand has lost its way. Some companies still treat frozen produce like real food, focusing on freshness, clean ingredients, and quality you can taste. They don't hide vegetables under heavy sauces or fillers, and they don't gamble with recalls that damage trust. These are the brands that remind us why frozen veggies became so popular in the first place. Convenience without compromise. Let's look at a few that are still worth keeping in your freezer. Worth trying, number 1. Cascadian Farm Organic. Cascadian Farm began in 1972 on a small organic farm in Washington state. What started as a single man's vision for sustainable agriculture has grown into one of the most recognized organic brands in the United States. Unlike the corporate giants that chase speed and cost-cutting, Cascadian Farm built its name on a commitment to clean farming and respect for the land. That legacy shows up in their frozen vegetable line today. When you open a bag of Cascadian Farm frozen peas or green beans, you notice the difference immediately. The vegetables hold their color, cook evenly, and maintain more of the natural sweetness you'd expect from fresh produce. There's no heavy seasoning packet, no artificial sauce, just vegetables, frozen at peak ripeness. For families who want simple, reliable ingredients, that clarity matters. Yes, the price tag is higher. A typical bag of Cascadian Farm frozen vegetables runs between $3.50 and $4.50, sometimes more than double the cost of a budget brand. But many shoppers feel the extra cost buys peace of mind. You're not paying for mystery ingredients, excess sodium, or bags full of ice crystals. You're paying for vegetables that taste closer to fresh, with a company philosophy that values quality over shortcuts. In a world where so many brands have drifted from their original promises, Cascadian Farm stands out by staying true to its roots. The question is, would you be willing to pay a little more for frozen vegetables that actually taste like they came from a farm instead of a factory? Worth trying, number 2. Trader Joe's frozen vegetables. Trader Joe's has built a cult following by making grocery shopping feel like an adventure. Beyond the quirky packaging and friendly store vibe, their frozen section has earned serious respect. Unlike many competitors, Trader Joe's focuses on unique blends and international flavors while keeping prices reasonable. Their frozen vegetables are a perfect example of how creativity and quality can coexist. Take their roasted corn, smoky, sweet, and ready to elevate everything from tacos to chowders, or their haricots verts, slim French-style green beans that cook up tender yet crisp. These aren't the limp, watery vegetables you dread pulling out of a bargain bag. They're carefully sourced, flash frozen to lock in flavor, and sold without unnecessary additives. What makes Trader Joe's special is the consistency. Shoppers know that whether it's spinach, cauliflower rice, or mixed veggies, the bags deliver reliable texture and taste. It's a level of quality control that many national brands fail to match. And the prices? Typically between $2.50 and $3.50 per bag, cheaper than some of the big-name options that don't even taste half as good. For busy families, young adults, or retirees on a budget, Trader Joe's frozen vegetables strike the balance between value and quality. They're versatile enough to be tossed into quick stir-fries or served as simple sides, and flavorful enough to stand on their own. So here's the real question. Which Trader Joe's frozen veggie bag has earned a permanent spot in your freezer? Worth trying, number 3, 365 by Whole Foods Market. Whole Foods has long carried the image of premium groceries at premium prices. But with its 365 everyday value line, The store made organic and natural options more accessible to the average shopper. Their frozen vegetables are a strong example of how a store brand can deliver consistent quality without the inflated price tag. The 365 frozen line focuses on simplicity. Instead of drowning veggies in sauces or seasonings, they offer straightforward options: organic broccoli florets, mixed vegetables, spinach, and more. The cuts are uniform, the colors are vibrant, and when cooked, the vegetables actually taste like vegetables. For anyone tired of mushy textures and freezer burn surprises, that reliability matters. Another advantage is the balance between organic quality and affordability. While Cascadian Farm might run close to $5 a bag, 365 typically stays in the $2.99 to $3.99 range. That makes it a middle ground, more trustworthy than bargain brands, but not as heavy on the wallet as high-end organics. For families watching both health and budgets, it's a practical compromise. Shoppers often note that 365 frozen veggies work well across different meals, whether blended into smoothies, sautéed as sides, or baked into casseroles. That versatility makes them a staple in many households. And with Whole Foods now under Amazon's ownership, the brand has only expanded its reach, showing up in more homes than ever before. So when you're standing in the freezer aisle, but here's something to consider. Are you willing to invest a little extra for vegetables that actually deliver on freshness and consistency? For many, 365 is the sweet spot between price and peace of mind. Frozen vegetables were meant to be a promise: quick, convenient, and still nutritious. But as we've seen, not all brands live up to that idea anymore. From Green Giant and Bird's Eye, once icons of trust, to Picked Sweet, Kroger, and Great Value, the shortcuts, recalls, and disappointing textures show how easy it is for quality to slip when cost-cutting takes over. These are the bags you'll want to think twice about before tossing into your cart. On the other hand, brands like Cascadian Farm, Trader Joe's, and 365 by Whole Foods remind us that frozen vegetables can still be worth the space in your freezer. They prove that with better sourcing, cleaner recipes, and more consistent quality, frozen produce can taste closer to fresh and make weeknight meals easier without sacrificing flavor. The choice comes down to this: do you want vegetables that save pennies but waste flavor, or veggies that bring real taste and value to your plate? Choosing wisely means fewer disappointments, less waste, and more satisfying meals. So tell us in the comments, what frozen vegetable brand do you trust most in your kitchen? And if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more honest reviews on the foods that fill your pantry and freezer. Because even from the freezer, vegetables should still taste real.